You work best under pressure. You've said it so many times it sounds like a personality trait now. The deadline hits tomorrow. And suddenly, you're sharp, focused, almost electric. Everything that felt impossible 2 weeks ago, it's done in 4 hours. And part of you wonders if this is just how you are, your natural rhythm, your creative edge. But here's what no one tells you. What you're calling your superpower might actually be your nervous system stuck in a loop it can't get out of. Think about what the days before the deadline actually look like. You sit down to start, genuinely intending to, but something doesn't activate. You check your email, open a different tab, make coffee you don't really want. It's not that you're lazy. You're not procrastinating out of pleasure. You feel a low-level restlessness, like waiting for something to begin. And then the deadline gets close enough to feel real. And your whole system shifts. Suddenly, there's clarity, a narrowing of focus. The noise in your head goes quiet, and you move. You finish the thing. You probably do it well. And then you exhale. Promise yourself you'll start earlier next time, and the cycle begins again. This pattern has a name in behavioral psychology. It's called deadline-dependent activation, and it goes deeper than habit. It shows up in your relationships, too. You don't respond to messages until they feel urgent. You don't deal with a problem until it becomes a crisis. You don't address your own needs until the discomfort gets loud enough to ignore. And the quiet days, the ones without urgency, feel strangely empty, like you should be doing something, but you can't quite find the engine to start. So what is actually happening here? And why does calm feel less like rest and more like something you have to endure? Before we go further, I want to be clear about something. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not simply bad at managing your time. What you have is a nervous system that learned a very specific lesson somewhere along the way. That lesson was this: stillness is not safe. Maybe you grew up in an environment that was unpredictable. Where calm was followed by chaos. Where peace was just the pause before the next difficult thing. Or maybe stillness just wasn't modeled. Everyone around you was always busy, always moving, always producing. And rest felt like falling behind. Either way, your brain did what brains do. It adapted. It learned that pressure is the signal to perform, that urgency is the only reliable engine. That you can trust yourself to deliver, but only when the stakes are high enough to force it. That's not a character flaw. That's a very intelligent survival response that was useful once. And here's what's running your entire life in the brain under pressure. Your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormones. In short bursts, these hormones do something remarkable. They sharpen attention. They narrow focus. They shut down non-essential thinking. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, creativity, and judgment, lights up, and you feel it. That sharp, almost alive feeling of finally being in motion. Here's the mental model. Think of your nervous system like a generator with a broken start switch. The generator works perfectly. The machine is fine. But the only way to turn it on is to apply voltage from an external source. Urgency, pressure, crisis. Without that external charge, the generator just sits there. Not broken, not unwilling, just waiting for a signal it was trained to need. The problem isn't that you can't perform. The problem is that your brain has learned it can only perform when the environment forces it to, and over time. This creates something more serious than procrastination. Your baseline, the state you spend most of your time in, becomes dysregulation. Calm doesn't feel like rest. It feels like absence, like something is wrong because nothing is urgent. And so, unconsciously, you start manufacturing urgency. You wait until the last minute, not out of laziness, but because your nervous system literally cannot engage without it. Calm days don't recharge you. They make you anxious in a way you can't explain. So how do you actually change this? Not by trying to be more disciplined. Not by building a stricter schedule. By teaching your nervous system that it can generate its own electricity. Step 1. Learn to distinguish dysregulation from laziness. When you sit down to work and nothing activates, that is not a character issue. That is a physiological state. Your nervous system is in a low arousal mode that hasn't found its signal yet. The research on arousal regulation shows that labeling the state accurately changes your response to it. Instead of thinking, "I'm so lazy, try this instead." My system is unactivated right now. What's a small signal I can give it? In practice, This might look like setting a 2-minute visible timer before starting any task. The timer itself becomes a mild pressure cue, just enough voltage to begin. Step 2. Create micropressure. That doesn't cost you your health. The goal isn't to eliminate pressure. It's to get better at generating smaller, safer doses of it. Parkinson's law in behavioral psychology states that work expands to fill the time available. Compress the time, and the focus appears. Use structured time blocks of 25 to 40 minutes with a hard stop. Not because of productivity culture, because short contained windows mimic the pressure your brain is looking for without triggering the cortisol flood of a real crisis. In real life, instead of saying "I'll work on this today," try saying "I have exactly 30 minutes before I leave the house." That boundary creates just enough activation to start without the 11 p.m. desperation. Step 3. Rehabilitate your relationship with calm. This is the hardest step, and the most important. Your nervous system has learned to distrust calm. To change that, you need to expose it to calm in small doses and survive repeatedly until the association shifts. Polyvagal theory, developed by Stephen Porges, explains that the nervous system has distinct safety states, and those states can be trained, but only through repeated felt experience, not intellectual understanding. Start with 10 minutes of deliberate non-urgence each day. No tasks, no input, no productivity. Just sitting with the discomfort of nothing being on fire, until your brain learns that the absence of urgency is not the absence of safety. Step 4. Build internal motivation. Anka's self-determination theory tells us that sustainable motivation comes from 3 internal sources: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Deadline-dependent people typically have none of these activated. They're running entirely on external pressure. The exercise is simple but uncomfortable. Before starting any task, ask yourself, why does this matter to me? Not to the deadline, not to the other person, but to me. Even one honest sentence of internal meaning shifts the brain from reactive mode to chosen engagement. It's not magic. It's the difference between being chased and deciding to run. Here's the model that holds all of this together. You are not a person who works best under pressure. You are a person whose internal generator was never taught to self-start. Every deadline, every crisis, every urgent email, those were never you performing at your best. Those were you performing at your most activated. And there is a difference. Your best work doesn't happen in the last 4 hours. Your best work happens when the machine runs on its own terms, starting when it chooses, stopping when it's ready. That version of you isn't absent. It was just never given the conditions to exist. Until now, the person who works best under pressure is celebrated. Romanticized. Even the one who delivers, the one who comes through. But spend enough time around that person, and you'll notice something. They're tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. They can't enjoy the quiet days. They feel guilty when nothing is urgent, and they secretly wonder why. Even when everything is fine, something still feels slightly wrong. That's not high performance. That's a nervous system that was never allowed to come home. And learning to work without pressure isn't about becoming slower or less capable. It's about becoming someone whose engine starts from the inside. Someone who doesn't need the building to be on fire to finally begin. That's the work, not the deadline. Not the urgency. Just you starting before you have to.